I'd like to thank you all for joining tonight. Jacqueline Monteith is an instructional coach for science and STEM for the Frontier School Division and an example of educational excellence. She's a recognized leader in a remote and distance learning, an award-winning STEM educator, as well as a lifelong learner. She has worked with many international organizations, including overseas departments of education in Dubai and Thailand, Polar Bear International, and multiple professional educational associations. She has a master's degree in distance education, which was exceptionally helpful during the pandemic, and is an associate professor in the Faculty of Education at Brandon University. Please join us in welcoming Jacqueline to facilitate this session on December recommendations for science and STEM departments based on her experiences. On behalf of Science Safety, we are excited to learn about all these. Welcome to the session to learn all about these suggested actions to make our science department safer over the holidays and for coming back to school in January. Jacqueline, it's your show.
Thank you so much, Brian. So just before we started officially, I was asking Brian, do you have snow where you are? And the answer was no, and fingers crossed that you don't get any. So I would like to ask our participants, do you have any snow? Where are you joining us from? Just out of curiosity. And Brian, I do have a joke for you to begin with. And sadly, it is a joke about snow, but I think you'll like it. So as our participants say a big hello, let us know where you're from. I would like to know, why was the snowman digging in the pile of carrots? And of course, anyone else could take a guess as well. Yeah, who knows? That's very close. The snowman was picking his nose, actually. So there we go. And with that, we'll get started. Yes, near Buffalo, New York. And I need to ask, how much snow do you already have? I think New York is top of the list sometimes for amounts of snow we get at this time of year. And a big welcome. So welcome. And we've got Flint, Michigan. Nice. And no snow yet. So I'm sure in Flint, it will be coming your way soon enough as well. So everybody, thank you for joining me. As Brian mentioned, my name is Jacqueline, and I work as a science instructional coach with kindergarten through grade 12 schools, and everything to do with science and STEM. The conversation that we like to have this evening is all about safety at this time of year. So we are going into the holidays. We have all of these considerations with winter weather. We have students, teachers, everybody's looking forward to a well-deserved break. And also it's time where we just want to be at peace of mind, leave those thoughts about our lab and safety considerations for a couple of weeks. And so we want to make sure that you are getting to the point where you can leave your lab in a very safe state and enjoy your holidays as much as possible for you, whether you have snow or not. So these are a few of our top considerations and reminders that we've developed for all of you. We're going to be looking generally at these 5 discussion topics for tonight. We're going to be looking at chemical storage and hygiene, general housekeeping, the care of our plants and animals that we often have in our labs and larger school areas, engineering control, safety equipment, and some data that we wanted to share with you as well. So looking at chemical hygiene. So when we think about our schools closing for 2 weeks, we really have to consider different opportunities for chemical hygiene practices and protocols. We're looking at storage, cabinets, waste management, and of course our inventory. And I am hoping that none of you have a situation like this, but sometimes we do. And that's a reality of the roles we play and the jobs we have working in labs. All right, so looking at chemical storage, before you head out, we absolutely need to make sure that all of our chemicals are returned to our proper storage locations. You will have your storage system in your school. It may be in one location or multiple locations. However you have that set up, you just really need to ensure that it is set to go. Everything's where it belongs in the way that you have it set up. You need to make sure that if any bottles have broken caps or need labels or any issues at all of this is handled before you leave for the holiday season. It's really easy to put that out of mind. And when we come back in January, we may forget, we may not notice. So whatever you're noticing now it's the time to deal with that. And also that friendly reminder, don't leave chemicals on countertops, mobile carts, in non-lab specific areas, or anywhere else where sometimes chemicals end up for short periods of time. We also are very careful with our inventories. And again, every school has a different system. There's a lot of different systems that we have for chemical inventory available to us as teachers. And whatever your system is, it's now time to recheck that. So if you have activities coming up that you need to start ordering for, now is a good time to double check your stock. It's a good time to check how much has been used in the fall semester and to inventory that in your system. A pro tip here, consider using the colored dots on the lids each time you use a chemical, where you can visualize what you've used in this school year, and then you know that that's what you need to update moving forward. We're also looking at your chemical safety cabinets, making sure everything is locked up, that everything is in their appropriate storage area, that you have fitted caps, lids, and anything incompatible is not being stored together. The example given here is don't store the flammables in a non-approved cabinet. Make sure that everything is set up as you normally would. And moving forward to that chemical waste management, again, every school district does have their own system for management of chemical waste, meaning how often and so on. You need to follow your local guidance for your chemical hygiene plan. It can also be called an environmental hygiene plan, and follow the procedures that you have set for chemical wastes. In some districts, you are allowed to store for a certain amount of time or a certain amount of chemical. So you need to make sure that you're on top of that and figuring out when the next storage disposal plan will be happening for you. And again, this is all localized to what you need, following your legal guidelines and the protocols in your school. All right, so when we're looking at general housekeeping in science and STEM facilities, it's really just that encouragement to return yourself to a clean and tidy, organized department in the new year, so that, again, you can go on your break full of relaxation and rest and come back energized and not have a to-do list in front of you. It's a really good idea at all times to keep everything neat. That is your lab, any prep rooms, chemical storage rooms, and so on. This is daily. This doesn't just happen in December or June. Yeah, making sure your safety items have no obstructions, have appropriate signage, and so on. So keeping in mind that a tidy laboratory is a much safer laboratory for yourself and for your students, as well as anybody who might be in your area that is not normally in your area, such as people who are cleaning, people who are looking at facilities over the break, and so on. All of us have glassware in our labs, so now is the time to make sure that your glassware is clean. If you have anything that is put into dishwashers, dedicated dishwashers, that is clean and emptied, that everything is back where it belongs. It's not left on countertops or carts or in the prep room, that it is where it belongs. Making sure that everything that, or anything that happens to be broken, is in their approved broken glass box. And also that you have a plan for disposal for that. Depending on how much and how full that box is, again, this is a school and localized guideline that you follow of when that broken glass needs to be removed from your area. And of course, don't forget about that dishwasher. Again, another reminder, empty the contents prior to leaving. Don't leave those items in there for the weeks that you're gone. The lab fridge, keeping in mind that there is to be no food or drink stored in that lab fridge, but have a look in it and decide what you are keeping, what is still good, what you are not keeping. And of course, your personal protective equipment, evaluating what's on hand, what you might need to order, clean, sanitize, and put away before the closure. There may be people in your space, other school staff and so on over the break. We're making sure that you are establishing and maintaining those good housekeeping practices. We want to absolutely eliminate any hazards to employees. That includes floor walkways. This has applications for holiday lab staff, cleaning, custodial staff, maintenance staff, and so on. So just because the teacher and student and support staff may be out of the building, that doesn't mean that your building and your space will be empty. We need to reduce the potential fall hazards, resulting risks from custodial and other staff of getting seriously injured. In addition to that, we need to make sure that people are safe when they're working around chemicals that they may not be familiar with. So this, in fact, requires the use of appropriate personal protective equipment, such as goggles, gloves, and more. All right, so let's take a little bit of a breather here. What I would like to know is, does anybody here, either in your classroom directly or in your school area, do you have plants or animals in your area? So I would like to know what you have, and yeah, I'm just curious about what your pets are. Just today in my area, we actually have a tower garden, and we grow different types of greens. So today we had a harvest day, and got to give out a bunch of greens for some folks to take home, which is good because that rising cost of our fresh veggies and greenery is excessive right now. But yeah, cleaning that out, we have to clean out the garden tower, make sure nothing's going to create its own life over the next few weeks. Harvested our greens and sent them home with some very appreciative folks. So I'm curious, do you have any plants, animals that you're looking to take care of? All right, so we have a yes, cactus plants and a garden wall for the environmental science program. Now you're speaking my language as well, and I'm so curious about what you're doing with enviroscience, but no insects or animals. All right, so looking at plants and animals in the science and STEM department, but really we need to be sending this reminder to the larger school environment. If we're thinking about science safety, we can extend the messages as well. So these organisms, they need to be provided with proper care, and that they will have a healthy survival for the duration of the school closure. And this can look different in different situations. For some, it's just ensuring that plants have adequate water or moisture, ensuring that they will have adequate sunlight while the school is closed. And for some of us in winter months, that can be a little bit more difficult and take a little bit more planning. Making sure that temperatures in the room will not be too cold, and communicating that to your administration. And also, if there's any special food, a rotating schedule that needs to be met during the closure period. And look at that, there's some cactus right there in the photo. Thinking about animals, if you do have animals in your care, you need to now consider so much more, such as food, water, warmth, light, different unique needs, waste management, cleaning, and more. And also, let's not forget the love that they need too. So some people will allow their classroom animals to spend a holiday with a student or a teacher, and they have their guest home for a couple of weeks. Very exciting when students get to take the pet home for a little while. If your animal, reptile, arachnid, or other live organism requires daily attention, you need to make those arrangements now ahead of time. So The key here is over communicating those unique care instructions for the animals to the provider if you're not doing this yourself. And over communication means if you can provide checklists, if you can provide a schedule, if you can speak, if you can showcase, if you can do any sort of check-ins over the weeks. Very important to make sure our animals are in care. All right, so now looking at engineering controls and all of the safety equipment that we have. It is a good time to inspect and test many of the safety items and engineering controls in your area. Many of these items do have legal requirements to be tested weekly or monthly during the year. So this is a good checkpoint to make sure that it's done prior to leaving the building. Specifically checking out your eye wash stations, drench shower, fume hoods, fire safety items, sink, floor drain, as well as master shutoff controls. And that can be your checklist right there of what you need to be looking at before you leave. In terms of the eye wash and showers, looking at testing and running the eye wash station weekly. We want to prevent that sediment or stagnant water building up in the plumbing system in case it needs to be used. And this is a requirement of using the safety equipment properly. So in December, it's a good idea to examine the units, make sure they're in good working order, and also checking those service inspection tags. If they're out of date, you need to notify your administration and get this solved before you return to the lab in January. Fume hoods, you need to ensure that all materials are removed from the worktop in the fume hood. This includes chemical waste. The fume hood is not your storage area. They should not be left on the work surface overnight ever. So now is a good checkpoint to make sure that that's not happening. Make sure to close the water and natural gas valves, set the sash height to optimum level before leaving for your holiday season. So really making sure it's all good in the hood. And I know you'll like that one. Thinking about fire safety, inspecting your fire safety items, such as the extinguishers, blankets, buckets of dry sand, ensuring that the inspection tags, again, are up to date, notifying your administration if there's any needs if there's missing tags, expired tags, and a plan to remedy that. So these fire safety items are always accessible, no obstructions, no clutter. Drains, we're thinking about the sink drains and floor drains that you can just pour a cup of water down before closing up the school the day before you leave. There's a few benefits of this. First, preventing that sewer gas from being able to pass through the P-trap system in the drain. It's also an opportunity to identify if there's any foreign items. If something's not quite working right, now you have a period of time where that can be resolved before you come back to the lab in January. Locks and security, your door locks, the lab, prep room, chemical storage room doors are locked before you leave. Include your cabinet locks that everything's working properly and the storage cabinets are locked for the duration of the closure. And then considering your master shutoff controls. This includes electricity, water, and gas. They need to be in the closed position for the holidays. If for some reason these are not functional, again, that plan needs to be made right away to remedy that before you return to your lab, or as soon as possible, if possible, before you leave your lab. We have available science lab safety resources. Sometimes these documents are overlooked, but it is mandated. They need to be reviewed and managed annually. So in your time that you have, it is important to have a look at these and be aware of what's expected. That includes the science safety manual, any safety acknowledgements, your chemical hygiene plan, and your annual physical safety inspections. And I'm going to give you a moment just to look at those checkpoints in there so that you can jot down anything that stands out to you as a to-do list for you. All right, and because we have chemical safety on the brain here, as well as general lab safety, were you aware that carbon and hydrogen went on a date? It was awesome. They really bonded. Okay, now this is the point of the school year where I will just laugh at my own jokes at any time. So I hope you like that too. Going into a little bit of data, looking at stats in a study completed in 2021, investigating science safety in STEM and CTE labs in the United States. These are some of the key findings that are a little bit surprising. 35% of teachers of STEM and CTE did not have any formalized safety training. 69% of teachers do not use a safety contract or acknowledgement form with their students. STEM accidents statistically increase once class size exceeds 24 students, and 58% of teachers could not recall the last annual safety inspection in their school. So now I would like to hear from the participants here. Do any of these surprise you? Is this in line with what you experienced, not necessarily in your home building there, but just from what you've observed in general and working with colleagues? Do any of these surprise you, or is that kind of what you've noticed as well? So feel free to jump into chat. Yeah, they are scary findings, and all of those numbers are way too high, but that's why we're here, right? We're here to try to make sure that those reminders and that those standards are met. We're looking at having a holistic approach to meeting those standards. Science Safety has developed an integrated strategic approach for your school safety program. It starts with individualized training that is made for each grade level and subject area, providing a digital student safety contract, management system, a virtual safety assistant for annual safety inspections, chemical inventory management system that can handle the label and SDS needs in your department as well. We review safety manuals, chemical hygiene plans, training systems, collaborate with schools and districts to enhance safety. And the reason being, the most important, to facilitate that increased safety awareness for all members of the school ecosystem. We talked about people who are regularly in your lab, the teachers, the support staff, the students, but you're not the only ones, right? We're thinking about people who aren't regularly in the lab and could come into your space as well, and making sure that safety for everybody is there. So a couple comments: 80 to 90% of teachers using chemicals do not have adequate training. Yep. Again, scary estimates, but we know from our experience that sometimes that can be the truth. And we suspected this, but confirmed by the study. Yes, you're welcome. And how can we say anything about that except for doing sessions like this so that we can help get everybody on board and on the right track. So science safety, again, this is the Holistic School District STEAM Safety Program. And I'm going to let you take a moment to look at this. But keeping in mind, this is cyclical and it repeats every school year continuously. There is not an endpoint on this. This happens every year at all times with everybody involved. So we've got professional development, lab safety acknowledgement forms, personalized protective equipment, safety inspections, chemical storage, shared inventory and SDS listings, hazard analysis, safety manual reviews, and more. When we think about a system like this, it can seem overwhelming, but when you get into the groove of it, it's not at all. And it's really the minimum of what we need to do to ensure our own safety and the safety of everybody else who's involved in our lab settings. That safety awareness, while Science Safety has developed a scalable learning environment, it's easy to use, it's accessible, and convenient for all ages. We've got built-in motivators such as badges, awards, micro-credentials, and certifications for participants. Our goal is to help elevate school and school district-wide safety awareness through delivering consistent asynchronous and synchronous learning moments that are topical, relevant, and current. This is what we need. And yay, thank you for all of this and the development of this. We've designed those learning pathways, individual module objectives, reporting purposes that are legally required and district required, but managing it within a time frame. And again, it's that cyclical learning. So our goal is to align to legal and professional standards, but not just to align to them, but to exceed them. Being leaders in science safety, that really is our goal, is the elimination of any areas that could be problematic. The pathways that are available, again, are individualized, they're personalized into areas that are age, grade, and subject matter appropriate. We use a blend of traditional virtual video, animation, and scenario-based learning to achieve safety awareness outcomes. These pathways are prescribed modular lessons on topics that are pertinent to what you need at that moment. Currently, there's over 350 individual modules and 4,000 discrete lessons that support the content related to safety and hazard awareness. And again, going back to what makes it very self-motivating, we've got those micro-credentials, badging, and certifications upon completion of modules or pathways. So absolutely something to look into. It's incredibly important and being developed for you. All right, so going to the comments a little bit. The infographic is great. Can you send this? Absolutely. Yes, into that linear format, and we'll be sharing everything after the session as well. And please jot down this contact info at sciencesafety.com. And you've got a couple of emails there, the phone number, but again, you don't necessarily need to jot it down. We will be sending it to you. And keeping in mind that we encourage you to share this amongst your colleagues and in your school itself, but in your district, in your area as well. Like the comment that came in, estimating that 80 to 90% of teachers don't have that proper training. Let's get on it, and let's help our colleagues get on it too. Those of us who know absolutely how important this is know also how important it is to do that outreach to our colleagues to help step up everybody's game. All right, so I'm going to stop that share, and we've got some comments here. Feel free to reach out to Brian. So thank you for that, Brian. And we've got a question comment. Our school does not perform a December chemical inventory. We only do it in May or June. Is that okay? It is okay based on legal requirements. So legally, you are supposed to do that chemical inventory annually, so once a year. However, we want to exceed the legal requirements and get into that better professional safe practice. And we highly recommend you do it twice a year. So doing it before winter break is a good time. It's a good reminder to get that done, and then looking at before any summer break. And again, you're checking for damage, broken containers, lids, proper labeling, and all of the other aspects of responsible chemical management that we just reviewed here as well. All right, so that's a little bit from me. We did have a little bit of time left right now. If anybody has any questions, we do have one more. The school has chemical storage cabinets. There's a white powder on the bottles. Do you know what is causing that? We think so, yes. That would be a precipitate formed when an acid and a base connect. So the product of that is salt and water, which, you know, showcases as that white powder that you found in the cabinet. So again, having that proper chemical storage where your acids and bases are separated, and follow the system that you're following will prevent anything like that. Also making sure that items that are concentrated, much more dangerous, such as sulfuric acid, nitric acid, they're stored independently. They have a different level of hazards that need to be considered. And you will need to clean that salt precipitate off of your bottles using TSP, trisodium phosphate, and then separate your bottles, of course, so that it doesn't continue to happen. All right, question for science safety. We have safety glasses. Do we need safety goggles? Safety glasses can be used for certain functions, such as, well, I'm thinking right away in physics, the safety glasses will be fine as long as they have the side piece on them, not just the front piece. And that can help aid in protection in case of projectiles or working with different elements that your eyes need a physical barrier. However, if you're using chemicals, liquids, heat, or glassware, they must be approved. They must be vented chemical splash goggles, and we'll send you exactly what that is when we send out the information for this. So yes, they have to be approved by your health and safety department. And the bottom line is that it's goggles, safety goggles that are chemically approved or approved for chemical safety need to be used in your science lab. If you are purchasing, then go towards that. Then you get the physical safety if you need, and you get the chemical safety. You don't have to purchase different types of glasses or goggles. All right, cannot remember the last time a physical safety inspection was conducted in our labs. And that goes back to those stats we shared too. Sometimes it doesn't happen, sometimes it gets neglected, sometimes people are unaware, but that doesn't mean that it's legal. So what we're looking at is the mandates and what the rules are. And the Occupational Health and Safety Act mandates that it's an annual physical inspection that's required. That includes the labs, the prep rooms, the chemical storerooms. This is performed with the chemical hygiene officer, a school admin, and members of the science department, teachers, and anybody else involved. So usually it's a checklist that dives into areas such as the safety program, the engineering controls, the PPE that's available, fire safety, employee training, and documents of that training, chemical management, and there's a lot more. In my district, I believe we have a 200-point checklist that people are looking at, and it's done annually at least. But again, if you want to go above the legal requirements, then you can look at having this done twice a year and really get into the groove of that. And if you haven't had one, now's the time to rectify that and to schedule it and get that process going with your school district so that you're in compliance legally. All right. That was a lot. Brian, do you have anything to add to that information?
I don't. That was great. Yeah, and if looks like we've got you were able to answer all the questions that were posted by the attendees, so we appreciate that. So on behalf of Science Safety, just wrapping things up, I want to express our gratitude and a personal thank you, Jacqueline, for all these important suggestions, make our science and STEM departments safer over the holiday season. My name is Brian Collins. I'm at Science Safety. I'm wishing each of you a restful and safer holiday. Together we can increase safety awareness and provide safer learning and teaching environments for everyone in the school ecosystem. Good night, and thank you for your ongoing commitment to safety education in your school and your district. Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everyone.